specific proposal. We only have like 4 days left to submit this one. So we kind of need to move pretty quickly. So the best thing might be for people to just say, like, who here wants to work on this, and maybe I'll create a list, and then we can kind of push each other to push this forward. Alexa, last time, and that's one of the reasons why I pulled this Figma file up here. This is was our final presentation, but you worked on a design that didn't end up being used. Would you like to kind of own or the visual side of this? Because I felt bad that this wasn't used last time.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay, Christoph. And, I actually tried to design it so it fit your design, which is kind of funny, because you have that colorful thing at the beginning. But I understand that perfectly. I know that each one of us has a different style, so it's okay. And there's no problem that it wasn't used. I know you picked up a few things and made it your own, and I think that was important at that moment in time, especially because you were recording. So no problem there. Yeah, I don't know. It was more of thinking on how to divide it up and to pick up on the colors that you had chosen. So it's not a concern really. We can try and do whatever it is we want for this time.
Yeah, your recommendation on splitting things up into smaller bits per slide, that was absolutely super helpful. So another question is, we have the option to have up to 3 co-speakers. It's 20 minutes total. So the first presentation over Christmas, we had 5 people presenting, each person 10 minutes or something like that. We could take that approach if we want to if we want to represent a few different people, have a few different voices. Or we could do something like FOSDEM, where we record a video with a few different people, and then there's one main person doing the presentation. Since I did the last presentation, who wants to do this one? Anybody interested in leading? You don't have to say right now, we have time, we just need to do the proposal, but I'm curious to bring it up in the open and see who's interested in doing certain parts of this.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do it. I would like to be able to, similar to FOSDEM, I'd like us to get as wide diverse amount of faces and voices in there. I would love to see the intro kind of extended a bit more. That one was maybe a bit fun and goofy. But maybe we could get some more content from people in the community who may not have time to come on the calls, especially. So I guess that may be another question, and maybe Toni, I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer it, but would it be possible to pre-record part of the presentation and then have the other part live?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that because we're live streaming, I think that actually all of the presentation will be pre-recorded to a certain extent.
Oh, okay.
But I can get some clarity from you guys on that and get back to you.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah.
And I can send you the link from FOSDEM, where we had, I think the first 2 minutes were maybe pre-recorded, and then it went into a more traditional presentation format.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Johns, I'd be happy to help too, so you don't have to take that all on by yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a lot. Just let me know.
For sure.
And who's it's really only just a few days left. Who's interested in meeting, let's say tomorrow or Friday or so, to kind of work through the proposal?
So
and go ahead.
So just a point on the proposal. It's actually not that long. It's a form that we just have to write a few words about what the goal is of what we're doing. We don't have to actually get into the whole details of the presentation as much. So we would have time to iterate on it after. We just need to figure out what the title is and what the goal of the presentation would be.
Okay.
Is this also one of those where you have to submit ahead of time, the presentation, or is it
No,
Is
we
that
don't.
the deadline, or is there
No,
more time?
no. We just have a form to fill out. Yeah, the title. I have it up here somewhere. But the title, the goal, and yeah, there's some like photos and some other stuff that we have to put in there. But yeah, the application isn't that long actually.
Yeah, and the good thing we have from here, we have the FOSDEM presentation, which includes, let me see. Like we have a lot of stuff already gathered. For example, we figured out, what do we want the audience, what we want the audience to take away from this. We have figured out different presentation formats. We have slides. So there's a lot of stuff we can pick from, unless, of course, people really want to do something totally different. But I feel like it would still be helpful for just a few people to get together and, create 1 or 2 or 3 final proposals that then other people, the other 800 people or so that are not on the calls, that they can just click likes or dislike buttons on, and to provide some direction or get some consensus on. So call tomorrow, Friday, good?
Let's do it. Same time?
That is fun.
Tomorrow?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow around the same time, if it works for people.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I took a note here. So we have about half an hour left. Are there any other topics that people feel strongly about? What I have on the agenda here is, upcoming design review call. We can talk about the collaborations. Bosch is here working on, started kicking off SUSE. Alexa is working on Spectre. That's kind of a brand new thing, something we could talk about. We could go over the sprints and what's changed on the guide. We can talk about the principles page, which Daniel has been working on and he's gotten some feedback on, but that would really need more public discussion because it's so fundamental to the design process and decision making. Anybody feel strongly about anything? Otherwise, we'll just work from top to bottom.
I'd like to hear about the project collabs.
Okay, cool. So a quick summary here. In January, we said, hey, this year we want to work with a lot of projects to make things real, not just create resources and learn for ourselves, but actually make stuff happen. And last community call, we kind of figured out, hey, here's a process of how we could do this, and we had some ideas. And then we reached out to some projects. And I think Bosch and you reached out to SUSE directly, and you and Gabor started working with SUSE a little bit. And then we had a bit of a more formal kickoff call separately with Spectre, which Connor, you were part of it, Alexa, myself, and I think that was it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of work has kind of happened on the side, but not really public, like there have been no suggestions or so. Bosch suggested a Bitcoin icons project, which could be a Figma thing, like icon library for Bitcoin projects. And then my mattress, I think we kind of talked about that a little bit on the design review call. That's Connor, myself, Tancred, Leon, working on a kind of a multi-sig mobile app based on the Photon SDK. Where should we start? Should we just start at the top here with Spectre? So we had the kickoff call. They basically have, it's like not really a Bitcoin UX problem. It's more of a interaction design problem because the team has there are no designers in that team. There are 4 people who are really into the tech, really passionate about what they do, but they don't have a designer. So it's kind of your bread and butter, like labeling things properly, explaining things properly, using the right UI elements and all this stuff. But it's kind of tricky to figure out how this problem is, how to even do it right. So Alexa and I, we've been working a little bit on separate Figma files, right? I've just messed around a little bit, not come up with anything useful. Alexa, where are you in your process?
You know, in the process of creating the Figma files and kind of going through the process, we asked Ben, who was really helpful on answering some questions as far as how the process goes, and in order to be able to give some suggestions. And like I mentioned a bit earlier to a few of you, we're working on a couple other issues and working on the Figma file on it and suggestions right now. There isn't something complete just yet, but we're working on it. Yes, and we have the screenshots, and they're working on switching them over to Figma and coming up with better ways of wording things so that it's easier for people to understand and to realize that they could solve a problem there. Because I think a lot of people reach out to them directly right now, and it would be more useful maybe if they could find something directly there, and that even when they find it after they ask help, it is simpler for them to understand.
Yeah. So if and there's room for other designers or anybody to hop in and give feedback and join this process. It's completely open. Not a lot of work has been done, and I feel like it would help to have a few different perspectives, because it is kind of hard to figure out. So if we can, if we all understand it at some point, that's a pretty good sign. And the next steps, we don't really have any next steps yet, right? Next steps would be for Alexa, you maybe come up with some proposals, me come up with some proposals, we discuss it, and then maybe we have another call with Ben. What do you think?
Yeah, I think once these screens are worked on and some, we'll have something for Ben to look through, team to think about. Yeah.
As part of something that I was working on, looking at wallet metadata, I started looking at the types for the configuration files. So I posted a link with that there, and I was looking at Wasabi Wallet and Bitcoin Core, but also went into the Spectre one as well. And yeah, they have like a whole bunch of configurations that are stored in a Spectre something.json, Spectre configs.json or something. So yeah, I was just looking in there to see like what the different types were, and I don't know if that might be useful for you guys as well. Just to see
I haven't even touched that. So there are two UX problems. One is kind of a configuration problem. The other one is how to deal with exporting all these different formats and how to make that easier to understand. I haven't even looked at the second one yet. Alexa, have you?
Yeah, I've started looking into it, but haven't suggested anything yet. There's a lot of different screens and a lot of different settings. So it's something to look through each little step and see how it can be improved.
But the Spectre team is super nice, and they're super interested and happy for any help. So I think it could be a really good collaboration.
Oh yes, and they're big
over
on privacy, privacy and security, and kind of self-sovereignty. So good project.
No, I was just going to say, I think, like just a bit more of an overview. A lot of the open source projects wallets, like Christoph said, don't have any design resources, and so what the guys are doing and what Bosch has done as well is just start with fleshing out a specific flow and getting them used to like the back and forth between development and design using Figma specifically. And so I think once the foundations for those are put in place, then it probably makes it a lot easier for anyone on this call, for example. Okay, you know, you might have some experience with Spectre, or it's a project you want to work on. You can actually go to the Figma files and see what the UX problems are and kind of either fork them and try and suggest some suggestions yourself, or just work with whoever is kind of leading that kind of charge initially. Did you want to say anything, Bosch, as well about Zeus? Because I know you've pretty much done a similar thing to what Alexa and Christoph have done as well.
Not a whole lot to add. I'll share my Figma file. So just for some context, for those who don't know, I just started working on redoing the onboarding for Zeus, which is a Bitcoin Lightning wallet. It's run by a developer called Evan. It's a bit of a side project of his, so the implementation of the designs probably take some time. But Tiana's actually, who's in the call, just joined recently, so she's helping me out. Just establish the style guide, and then once that's kind of established, she's going to start working on the website, and probably by that time I'll have some good designs done for the onboarding, and then probably start playing around with the guts of the wallet alongside Tiana. And I got some rebranding stuff done as well by Gabor, who's in the community. He's on this call, I don't think, which is pretty cool. But still need to get some feedback from Evan, because I know he works full time as well, so probably won't be an extremely fast process getting it all done. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know. Is there any questions anyone has about Zeus or anything to
Yeah,
add?
I'm curious, but so if other people, so I have the issue here in the Meta repo. Are you tracking the process somewhere, or how can other people participate or give feedback, or what do you think you would like help with, and what do you think would not be helpful?
It's kind of a bit loose at the moment. Like pretty much with Tiana, I just invited her to the Figma file, so we're just both working in the same Figma file. I guess we can just add comments to stuff and change things and work on stuff together in that way. So nothing along the lines of solid documentation, but I think as things develop a bit more, we'll start taking notes, because as we mentioned earlier, and I mentioned on the issue, we want this project to be useful to the community, that could be used as like a case study or something like that. But yeah, like haven't put a whole lot of thought into how to document the whole process yet. But
yeah, let me know if you want any help with that too.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I probably will soon. So I'll reach out.
Just a note for those of you working on the Spectre wallet, I guess it's Christoph and Alexa mostly, and I'm sure you saw in the latest Bitcoin Optech, there was a piece about securely setting up multi-sig wallets with a new draft BIP. That's probably a good one to look at.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Check it out.
I'll post the link in the chat, but it's on their website.
Yeah, I think for anybody who's into multi-sig, Spectre is a really good project to get into. And this might be a good opportunity to learn more about Spectre while we're also already having these conversations and working with the project.
And like Bosch said, I think what will be important is also as we look at these projects, what we can gather from them that may be able to help other projects and kind of build them, some sort of better information for them, so that it's not just focused on one project, but that it could help others. And
I reached out to Hugo as well at Nunchuck maybe 2 weeks ago or so. I think he joined the community, but he said he was going to reach out to you, Connor, about potentially doing a design review with Nunchuck as well. It's a pretty similar product to Spectre, so I think like there'd be a lot of crossover there that you guys can kind of work on and maybe all help each other out. It's all open source products, so it's not like they're exactly competing for some kind of market share or anything like that.
No, the more solid multi-sig coordinators we have, the better, really. So.
Yeah. And if anybody, I've actually, after a couple hours, I figured out how to connect my desktop Spectre to my Spectre running on my Umbrel, and actually managed that the hardware device is talking to my Spectre on my Umbrel. If anybody ever needs help with that, I can help you now. That's a total pain in the butt. But yeah, are there any other projects that you think that would be cool to reach out to, that you think we should work with? I mean, feel free to reach out anytime. I think it'd be cool. Or if you have personal connections or know they have a design need or so, we can totally open up more channels there.
Yeah, this is a bit of a tangent maybe, and it's not a project that needs help necessarily, but I came to think about Blue Wallet. And they're doing so well, but I came to think of them, and and Nuno's been fairly active on the Slack, but I think we haven't been able to quite sort of get him engaged in these calls, for example. And I'm not sure if he sees what kind of value he gets from them, but it was just a thought. Maybe we should reach out and see what we're missing.
Yeah, they move quickly. They're
Yeah.
probably very. And I talked to him a few times about some specific things, and he was very receptive for the design feedback. And I think there's a lot to be done. I feel like it's even a multi-sig, it's so hard to understand still. They don't explain things very well in a lot of places. So even just a personal feedback with maybe some tips, I feel like would already be helpful to them.
Yeah, no, they do race ahead on their feature list, don't they?
Yeah, that's their tech is just.
Yeah, no, I was just basically saying I would love to hear and see him more, because I think we also have a lot to learn from him. But yeah, sidetrack.
Yep, that is a very good one. Oh yeah, his website, they redesigned their website, and they had an open discussion in Telegram. And then I had I talked to him about it. Yeah, that's a good one.
They added it in Slack too.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think the site's already redesigned though. We already redid it.
Yeah, you can follow in their Telegram. You can get the latest test flights and directly test the see the latest features and test things out. So there's already an open channel for feedback.
Yeah, I think they have a pretty healthy and large community of users that give them feedback as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Anything else on any other questions or any other discussion points on projects? I can hear myself.
Well, there's a UI kit as well, the wallet UI kit, and that's been seeing some interesting developments and stuff. Can't remember
Matthew.
Oh, okay, yeah. On GitHub, been posting some already did my mattress user flow using the components. That's super interesting. I think maybe some attention might have to be paid to the wallet UI kit, maybe adding it as a project or something, collaboration.
Yeah, so that's go ahead.
I actually hadn't really looked into the UI kit in a while that you've been working on, Christoph, but I just noticed you have quite a few icons designed in there. Do you think maybe you can port that over to that Bitcoin icons design project? I'm not sure. Maybe that's something if you've already designed a reasonable kind of set and started working in that. Maybe we could just kind of have that as part of the design UI kit project as well.
Yeah, totally. We can just copy paste those over. I mean, long term, it would be nice to have some type of icon library. So you update the library and then the design changes in all these other places. But I don't think we can do that right now with our cheap free accounts. But yeah, we can just copy paste them over. They're all, it's all custom design free stuff, no licenses or anything.
Add them to the GitHub, because then kind of got a basis of styling, and then people can start, I guess, adding icons if they want for their whatever kind of, I guess, feature they want to use the icon for.
Yeah, with the UI kit, I think it would be cool to kind of talk about what's all needed to make that useful. Because there's one thing to just have a Figma file. There's another thing to have, let's say a landing page that explains what's in there, how to use them, or a GitHub repo where all the icons are exported as SVGs and PNGs and different resolutions and all of this stuff. It'd be interesting to figure out what's the MVP for this for a developer or somebody to just come in and use it.
I think on the design side, Ed's been doing a lot of work with it. I don't know, maybe you could talk about your experience in creating prototypes with it.
Sorry, John, so you're talking about me?
Yeah. You've been using it quite a bit, making prototypes, right?
The Figma prototypes, yeah. I was kind of trying to follow. I think Daniel and Christoph both had a couple of prototypes in their design pages. So I was kind of trying to follow a pretty similar thing to that. I came up with about 2 or 3 for, or a couple at least for the coin selection page, and then 1 for integrating a coin selection feature into a sort of larger transaction or a Bitcoin transaction, outgoing transaction. So yeah, it would be cool to see if there was a place where we could like amalgamate all of these prototypes, whether or not that's in like the payment section at the end, a bit like Daniel's done with like case studies. But yeah, it's been pretty.
But you've designed some like new components, like with the wallet UI kit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I designed some for the. There were a couple, I think, for the coin selection, and there was one, I think, for the transaction fee. Basically using the design components that Christoph came up with in the kit. Just like being able to select between different transaction fees and stuff like that. I would need to jog myself off the top of my memory though.
Yeah, Christoph, what would be the process to like get it back into that file? Because we don't have like the merging and branching stuff. You have to wait until the repo, right?
Yeah, for now, just let me know. If you come up with a cool component you think that should go in the kit, just let me know. Send me the file. I'll copy it over, and then I might have to, change the naming, like, so it fixes the naming convention of the other components or so. And then the looking at the UI kit here, what I do also with all these components is, I put in a short description to all these little segments here that describe each component. And then I also have sample mockups for each one. So if you come up with some cool component, just let me know, and I'll try to fit it into the structure so it all coherent with, of course, the least amount of changes. But I might have to standardize the font sizes or colors being used or something like that if it's too different.
Yeah, maybe we should like, I don't know what the interactions with like you said Matthew is, but since he's already implementing these things, I guess like a question would be like, how would he get notified that a component, like if a component changed, and
so there's so I can publish new versions of this file. So publish update, and then I have this text field here, and I can put text in here that says, hey, February 17, I added this and that component or so, right? That would be, there's no other, there is versioning in Figma files, but it's not explicit. Nobody gets notifications. I think you can add descriptions here, but it's not very obvious. It's a bit hidden. So I think for now we have to communicate, and I need to make sure that if something gets added, that I'll just burst it out, basically.
Yeah. Also looking at your components as well, Christoph, it seems like the difference would really be more to do with like style and how you display or at least the ones that I did using some of your components. I sort of mashed a couple up, and then it was more just a question of like style and sort of visuals. So definitely the ones I think which I have done and not like from scratch, they're probably just redesigned ones, which I guess is kind of the point as well. It's like, oh well, see how the component works and then redesign it. But I don't know if we want to get into the territory of having like, oh, here are like 4 different design options of the same component, or if that's just up to the designer.
Yeah, I would say that up to the designer, because ideally everything matches. There's a set of colors, there's a set of icons and some text styles. So somebody can duplicate this file, just change the components, and it already then maybe it looks more like what they have in mind. I think the only thing that Matthew also asked for was a black and a white theme, or a dark and a light theme. So I think that's kind of the difference there. But ideally, it's kind of vanilla. So, but super organized and componentized, so anybody can pretty easily make it their own. And then that doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room to say, like, here are 4 different styles of these components.
Yeah, I think I saw Bosch opened up a collaboration as well around Bitcoin icons. I would potentially be keen to help out with that, so I'll get in touch.
Those are, I mean, I don't know how you are, but at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my brain always shuts halfway down. And that's why I do these types of things. I make some icons, make some components, clean up some stuff. Then once brain gets going again, I'll focus on other things.
Hey, something to think about as we go through these projects too is maybe we can start a list of common problems. Because it would be, I'm sure we'll run across many of the similar issues. And if we can address them and give examples on how to solve them, then that will be more useful to future people visiting or future project makers and knowing how to solve some of these things.
What type of problems are you thinking about?
I'm thinking, UX problems when we look at this, and even just if we start thinking of navigation, if we think of all sorts of little settings and how they flow, I'm just thinking general UX, and have them. And I know that we'll probably run across quite a few of these. So I'm thinking of.
I think we talked a little bit about that at the kind of sprint planning session we did, where there's an issue to create a kind of central point for all of the case studies. Currently, they kind of exist in the different chapters and stuff. So there is hopefully a larger plan to host a set of different case studies that are tackling very specific UX problems. What that looks like is quite open for discussion at this point, but that's the kind of the direction I think we were going with the guide, at least.
We just put it in the next sprint, right? As a starting point. It's not going to be delivered in the next sprint, but it's going to be a bit clearer about what we need to do.
Yeah.
But that's a good call, though. Common problems. And here's, in my background, there's something Jose posted, which is kind of an example like that. It's like, here are like the main things to pay attention to. And it's, it's just static image, but we could have an interactive version of that. And then you're designing an onboarding flow. Do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. You click each one, and it takes you to the whole explanation for it. But it's I think we've talked about it. It's almost like a do and don't, or a checklist or so. That somebody could, ideally you could take this, and let's say you review an onboarding flow of your application or something you're working on with somebody else, and you just kind of see, okay, do I have everything covered?
Yeah, and also anything that's Bitcoin specific, because I'm sure I haven't looked at Jose's list, so I don't know if it includes Bitcoin. But
no, this is just an example of just form design. Where to put the labels and how to explain things properly, and if something's active, change the color and these types of things. It was more of a reference or an inspiration. That'd be cool. Yeah, I definitely feel like if we look at on the one hand, it's very cool if we look at the guide and we expand everything that's in the sidebar. It's a lot. And there's still 2 whole sections, onboarding and payments, that we don't really have any subpages yet. So it's gonna get complex. It'll be a lot of content. And if we can then have, you know, these shortcuts for people, I think will be helpful. Cool, we're at an hour. Everybody feel free to hop off or feel free to keep chatting. Is there anything else urgent? Anything we need to plan? Anything urgent we need to talk about? Anybody upset? Anybody want to share any happy emotions? Any jokes you want to?
I would like to plug for some more eyes on the principles page, which I posted a link to the preview of in the chat. There's also an issue and a PR. Basically, what we're doing here is we're trying to create a centralized place for things we think are really important for people working on Bitcoin products and designers. Of course, there was previously, or there is currently, a page in the private key chapter, but other chapters find themselves needing to talk about similar things. So the plan is to lift that out to a higher level. And basically, I'd love you all to have a look at it and see, you know, first, if just the names of the, I think there are 6 or 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 currently, principles that we believe that this community stands for and want to promote. If you read those and find yourself disagreeing, you know, definitely mention that in either in the PR or the issue, because that's super important, because we do not want to try and push stuff onto people, or we want to know, you know, if you don't, you know, if there's something you can't stand behind, that's not something we should be promoting, or at least we need to discuss it. You know, secondly, if you find yourself mostly agreeing with the buckets, you know, feel free to give more detailed feedback on, you know, the actual text within them, how they're described, if something's missing, etc. Just a plug, because it is an important thing, and we do not want to move forward with this without enough people having seen it and voiced their feedback.
And I think one important thing here is, if is the difference between it being generally clear, like I understand what self-custody generally means, and the difference from that to, is this enough information to allow me to make good product design decisions? So I talked to Dario from Moon about it, and he had exactly that question. He read about, for him as a team, he said it took him 2 years to figure out what self-custody actually means. They ended up defining it as non-seizability, like nobody can take your Bitcoin, and then non-freezability, like nobody can freeze your account. There's no blocker. And so if somebody has full control, if the user has full control, nobody can take things away from them or block them from doing things. That is then self-custody. And getting to those 2 points allowed them then to make informed product design decisions. So I think it's kind of hard to think to that level, but I feel like at some point we have to get there, and I think that would be awesome if we could get to that point.
There was, I think Bosch recently opened up a PR about this. I saw just the title about backwards compatibility and interoperability. I think those are like things that, you know, we should also push for in terms of principles. Yeah, I don't know what one else thinks about that.
There is one called interoperability, so we should definitely look at incorporating that feedback there.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly what interoperability means is, you know, something that needs to be defined. And is there a hard stop, or is it kind of a, you know, a scale where you try and do as much interoperability as you can? But it would be nice as a group to maybe try and define some minimum definition for what that.
Yeah. And sorry, I keep talking here. You shut up. But Dario shared another story. They went away from mnemonics, and they got a lot of crap for it. Bitcoiners gave him so much crap for that decision. But he said mnemonics, they don't translate well. They don't work in many other languages. And he personally, Moon had been around for 5 years, and he said he'd had to help so many people who made a spelling mistake in a word, who had all kinds of problems with mnemonics. So they went away from that, and they came up with a different solution. So, but mnemonics are seen as like part of the holy grail, or like it's a very crucial thing that a lot of people don't doubt at all. So I think there are more detailed discussions to be had.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to define, hard items. In this case, I would maybe say that instead of you have to have a mnemonic, it should maybe be phrased as like you should let people export their wallet, or import. That's not defining how that's done necessarily, but it's more like
starting to get into Satoshi's vision territory.
Yeah, look, this is why we need feedback, right? So please comment, please have a look at it, and if you're upset, that's a good thing because then we know there's something we need to talk about.
I'm looking into the backups of Spectre, and one of the things that they do have is export. And, for some reason, to me, it didn't make sense. And I know I'm familiar with technology, and I've looked at Bitcoin for a bit. I'm not advanced, but still, it felt kind of strange. And I thought maybe there's even more looking into these words deeply as to what people would actually understand, like most people, not Bitcoiners or not tech savvy people. To me, export felt kind of strange. It's like, why would I need to export these things?
To which country?
Yeah, so I don't know. It felt strange. I think there'll be plenty of words that we'll be looking at and try and figure out what would be the best option maybe for people to understand.
Good point.
I guess that's maybe a bit of research we need to add to the glossary section, perhaps all the different terms that we have listed out there to see how, I don't know, well understood the different variants of the names, export, backup, for instance. Yeah.
I think backup to me made sense, but export felt like something that, I don't know, it felt weird. And it's weird that I would think of that. Maybe all of you think export just makes perfect sense, but it was one of those strange words.
Yeah, I think backup makes a lot more sense.
It depends what you use it for, right? It's backup means it's like a copy of something and you kind of know, like, okay, this is like, I'm doing this for security. So if this original gets lost, I have this other one too. Export could be more for, well, I want to get it into this other program. I want to move it somewhere else.
Migrate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes, I did on that PR that I had, because it was backwards compatibility and native applications. I wasn't sure if that was really a design issue, but I guess it is more of a developer kind of job, as Daniel pointed out in the PR, but just kind of, I guess, couldn't help but think there is some kind of like product designer kind of role to like kind of direct developers into making their applications native, and maybe that could be added as like maybe an appendix in the guide or something. Like, I don't necessarily think that would be something you'd put in the guides like in a full kind of content thing, but it is a good practice that should be encouraged for Bitcoin applications, I think.
Yeah, I thought about that, the native aspect of your comment there, and the reason I felt it might be hard to go that far is Well, it's twofold, I guess. One is that it's, if you're a small team and want to reach as many people as possible, going native in a mobile world means you have to build 2 code bases, right? So either you only build for one, never reach the other people, and therefore have a smaller reach. And the other part of it is that saying you have to go native isn't actually explaining the reason, right? I mean, the reason is that you can normally then have fewer dependencies, and the dependencies are the risk, right? So I would maybe, instead of making it a principle, I would make it a strong recommendation to think about how deep your dependency tree goes, right? Like it can go really, really deep. Even in a native app, that's not a protection. It's just slightly easier maybe to avoid having hundreds of dependencies. But yeah, so I would maybe rephrase it as being about minimizing the dependency risk and the sort of loopholes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There is some backwards compatibility stuff that we have to deal with in terms of addresses as well. I'm not sure how that fits into that discussion or not, but we were talking about it earlier with Stephen there. And yeah, you have like 3 different versions of addresses. One of those addresses don't allow you to transact with people with other addresses. You can import a mnemonic by itself into an application. Like if you were using an older application that only supports like like the version 1 addresses, and you start use the mnemonic in a version 3 address wallet that only supports that one alone. It doesn't tell the user that, hey, by the way, this is SegWit addresses. So then you feel like your funds are lost. Yeah, so there are aspects of that backwards compatibility.
It's definitely happened to me before. Transaction gets stuck for like, I think it's up to 2 weeks as well. And like, if you have a wallet that doesn't allow you to use RBF, which means you can bump your fee, then you're literally stuck in no man's land thinking you've lost your funds when you haven't. Your funds, like, I guess transactions are binary. They either finish or they don't. They either get sent or they don't. So, but there's like, unless you have a wallet that is aware of that, it can be quite frustrating.
Wait, so you like this is sending to like a non-SegWit address or something?
I'm not sure if that was what happened specifically, but I'm guessing, I could be completely wrong, that the result is that like it appears that the transaction has left that address, but it hasn't. It can get stuck for up to 2 weeks, and there's no way of actually knowing unless you know a bit behind the technology. Then you know, okay, at maximum after 2 weeks, the transaction will show in my wallet again.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have a wallet that allows you to bump the fee, then you can rebroadcast it. But yeah, it gets quite nuanced.
I gotta head off as well, guys. I'll see you later. Good seeing you guys again.
Yeah, you too. Sleep well. You have to work soon?
Yeah.
Get up early?
Good effort, man.
All right. Hope you get some good rest.
Peace.
Take care, boys.
Yeah, I guess it's time here too. It's getting close to dinner time, but always nice to catch up.
Yes, for sure. And then if anybody's interested, tomorrow, same time, talk about the proposal.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah, we just we mainly need to come up with a title, and I think we've been using designing Bitcoin for everyone, which I'm fine with. It's it's gonna get us into the, you know, our SEO up, right?
But I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? I mean, if it captures, you know, what we do, and every time maybe we can slightly change, we show slightly different facets, few different people present, maybe it gets different personality because of that. We adjust it to the audience a little bit. And hopefully, you know, we'll get a chance to also afterwards maybe talk to people in chat or so and learn about like what their questions that they have, and then we can adjust it too.
And you know, there are different audiences. I'm sure the people that are there haven't actually looked at the presentation yet, so I think it's safe.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, Tony said that, you know, instead of giving this like what is open design and whatnot, as Paolo said in our last post, then we show them how we're doing it. That was the best part. I just love
that was good. That was good.
We showed them how we do it. That was like the icing.
That was good.
So, yeah, but it seems like Tony's kind of like saying like that's kind of like the direction, kind of like the FOSDEM direction, which is quite interesting. Which is quite interesting. I thought we would have to do a bit more work setting up like what open design is or how we define that. And yeah,
you know, we let's just talk about it in the call. And maybe each of us can spend a little bit of time beforehand and come up with some ideas and what we think. Some things we want to maybe expand a little bit, other things we want to cut a little bit. I'm sure there's some detail in there. I'm just tired now.
No worries. Yeah, you've been talking so much, man. Like, God damn, like.
Yeah, Alexa, you can lead the next community call.
Yes.
We should rotate, really. To be fair.
Yeah.
You're getting a little fatigued with it, Christoph?
No, it's even that. It's just it's good for other people to take the lead.
Thanks, Connor. Yeah, I mean that would be fine.
Is it mandatory to have the backgrounds?
You can do whatever you want.
Totally be mandatory, Christoph. We should have different backgrounds.
Or a few people can host if you don't want to do it on your own. It's not really.
Yeah, and you know when last year we had a few different people host, and I would still kind of gather topics beforehand. So there's a bit of an agenda. So whoever hosts doesn't just have to do everything, but they know like the agenda is already there and can kind of talk through it.
And you know, I think it's kind of cool too that all of you guys are there. So
yeah, it's chilled anyway, right?
A supportive environment for speaking.
Yeah, it's pretty chilled anyway, isn't it? It's quite informal, so I think most people feel comfortable speaking up and stuff, so it's good.
Or do they?
It's not Bitcoin Core Review. It's not Bitcoin Core Review Club or anything. I've sat in one at the conference before. At the advanced, it's tense in there, man. Like it's not a joke, man. You have to do like a shitload of reading if you turn up to a Bitcoin Core Review Club, because you need to know your shit. Like you can't just turn up.
Yeah. Well,
it's proper. So it's quite nice to for people just be able to come in and just give their opinions and stuff. Although it's a very different environment. Like they're creating software that's close to $1 trillion market cap, so it is a bit different. But
I think it's also a community call, right? It's meant to be more casual, more conversation. Then the design review is kind of focused, more like professional feedback and a bit of presentation. And then the jam session is more about for like a work group for people who work on the guide.
Yeah.
So it's kind of in between. Yeah. But community calls, it's
for sure.
Do what you want.
I'm gonna so I'm gonna try and grab some food.
All
right, see you guys later.
Cool.
Christoph helped me last year when we were doing like I don't know this like circuit, talking at a whole bunch of different events and stuff, and yeah, I was like getting like super nervous and like even like presenting to the community or whatever, I was getting super nervous. Yeah, but yeah. So Alexa, you have Christoph to give you some tips on public speaking.
Oh, if I can make it, not like the magical crypto conference where the virtual reality world didn't work for me.
Oh man, I can't believe they recorded that, man. Like, did you see the record?
Yeah, some technical hurdles there for sure.
No, but they published the recording. I saw that in this December on the Magical Crypto. They tweeted about it. I'm like, no, it's recorded. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was bad. It was pretty bad. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna hop off now as well. I see you guys tomorrow on the call for the Figma config, and see you in the Slack. Peace.
Yo, peace out. Thanks for joining. I'm also gonna hop off. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Talk to you online.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, I need to stop recording here. Okay.